All right, we good to go?
Ready when you are.
All right, well, welcome to the Wilmington Elementary School CM at Risk interviews. My name is Julie Leduc. I am the owner's project manager from SMMA, and to my left,
Mary Gillespie, Finance Committee and Wildwood School Committee member.
to my right,
I'm Eric Schlegel, I'm the town manager.
I'm Lee Dorr with Dorr and Whittier.
Hello, Paul Ruggiero, Assistant Superintendent of Administration and Finance at the schools.
apologize in advance because I am going to cough the entire night, and I do apologize, so hope that doesn't interrupt it, but we are gonna turn it all over to you.
Mark Abdella, Vice President of Construction Management for Fontaine.
Liz Beverly, I'm the Director of Diversity and Community Engagement.
David Fontaine Jr., CEO of Fontaine.
Chelsea Maintry, Vice President of Pre-Construction Services.
Brian Davies, Director of Construction and MEPs.
Rob Day, Budget Executive.
Alex Omar, Senior Superintendent.
Dave Fontaine Senior, to bring the gray hair. Nobody has to.
All right, we're ready to get started. So thank you all very much for having us tonight. We were really excited to be here. I want to just kind of start the presentation, tell you a little bit about our company, how we structured our presentation. We're familiar with some folks in the room for a lot. I know it's the first time, getting to meet us. We're excited to get to this stage. We know you have a lot of interest, rightfully so. So I just want to kind of open up, tell you a little bit about us and then turn it over to the team. And, this entire presentation, we want to kind of emphasize the structure around your project. The entire RFP that you saw was done by our team for your project that would actually build it. So, really kind of custom made for your project, and we're excited to share that with you. We'll go through kind of our high points. Please feel free to make it a conversation. We're lucky to be obviously last tonight. So anything you want to engage on during the presentation or things we've missed, please just, interrupt us or jump in. So as I said, entire, presentation structured around your questions and kind of what you asked us to speak about. You'll hear from different members of our team who specialize in this, but we want to present what we think is a unique approach. A little bit about Fontaine generally. Our market, our focus, what we do for a living, what we're excited to present to you tonight in terms of expertise is public schools in Massachusetts. We're based in Massachusetts, we're from here, we live here, right? Like this is our bread and butter. There's a lot going on in the Boston market. People are slow, there's interest. Like we're not here because of anything happening in the market. We're here because this is our market. This is what we do. Our people are experts in it. And we're excited to be here. We've built over 130 schools throughout Massachusetts. We work throughout the entire state. We're doing some projects, in relatively close by towns as we speak, including some that our teams are working on. A little bit about us as a company. Our model is we like to focus on, 8 to 10 projects at one time. That's a good kind of size for us. We are not trying to be the largest company in Massachusetts. We're not trying to be the largest company, that you'll interview. We want to be the best choice for our clients. We want to hire the best people that do our work, and you can only do that to a limited size, in our opinion. So, we're proud to present a team that the availability fits well. They've worked well together, and they're bringing that skills and experience and expertise to your project. And, for us, in order to pursue a project, like we need to know who would be available to go there, what the timing would work out. When each year, the central register comes out at all the projects, we actually know, and we choose not to pursue more projects than we choose to pursue. Right. So us being here and even at the RFQ stage, we really felt that we had a team that's the right fit, right experience for this project. That team is Alex Omar and Rob Day. Alex and Rob have worked together successfully on similar projects as well, similar size and larger on occupied sites, on active sites. They've built elementary school projects. They've worked with your consulting team, and they're working together currently. So as you can see, a couple projects that Rob and Alex have been involved in, members of our team, Northbridge Elementary School with Lee and his team, Shaw Elementary School with Julie and Sims, and now completing not far from here, Tingsboro Middle School will turn over this summer. Timing works perfect to jump right into pre-construction planning and all that stuff to make sure that you're getting the best bang for your buck out of the CM delivery method in that pre-construction opportunity. One thing we wanted to just highlight about us as a firm, we heard a lot of conversations during the building committee meeting. We know you thoroughly explored, CM delivery method as well as the general contracting design bid build delivery method. We know that, the committee recognizes there's advantages to both, right? With the that you've chosen, you're going to be able to accelerate the schedule, right? You're going to be able to do early packages. You're going to be able to have that partnering approach. What Fontaine brings that's unique from our competitors in the market is we still do roughly half of our work as a hard bid lump sum general contractor. That's kind of our history up until 2013. We only worked as a lump sum general contractor. So when you've done that for 80 years solely to survive until that time, right? And when we still do half of our work, that means that our scope sheets, our approach to procurement, our methodologies are tried and tested and true with that GC approach. We bring that value in how we package things and how we prosecute our work. Because roughly half of the work that we do every day across Massachusetts, there is no contingency. That contingency is our overhead and profit. Right? So when we're managing work, seeing those internal changeovers, we bring all that knowledge, that expertise, that array of subcontractors that are aggressive and competent and safe and work in that GC world. They also follow us to our CM work and we get packages that are the right size for them. We feel that with this kind of, ability, this CM, GC type background that we bring, that contributes and derives real savings for our project teams. Right? So kind of a couple things that we wanted to highlight that we believe this background will help drive savings for the town. We've proposed a more accelerated schedule with an accelerated move-in, right? We believe that that will reduce the overall duration of the project from, kind of as it could contemplated with the longer phase move-in. That savings in itself, somewhere in that 6 to 9 months range at your estimated GCs of $150,000 a month is $900,000 or so from us. It's also going to result in savings for the trades, the subcontractors. Hard bid packaging, I want to talk about in a moment, but we'll explain how that saves money by cutting out markups. Our proposed CM fee compared to your current estimate is $530,000 less. And we also believe that what's pegged as your CM contingency value right now, we're willing to say it's not called for in the proposal. Sometimes it is. People say state your CM contingency proposed percentage. We would work at 1.5% total, CM contingency. Compared to your estimate right now, that would be a savings of $650,000. And we would say, that's the highest contingency that we would propose at GMP. We've done that successfully across many of our MSBA projects. Our familiarity with Lee and his team allows us to have that confidence, and you'll see some of our results managing those contingencies now. So all those savings add up to significant dollars that we feel our approach can drive to the project. Just wanted to speak quickly to that kind of hard bid packaging mentality. It might be a little bit in the weeds from, kind of construction, but basically when we buy like a package, like a big drywall package, right? We buy what that contractor is best suited to do, the drywall, the studs, the taping. Many of the, the larger CM types, they will package along with that marker boards, tack boards, doors, frames, hardware, a lot of work under that single contractor, which results in that contractor then managing those subcontractors, even, like a small GC. And it's we find about a 10 to 15% markup when we peel that away from those layers. That's how every hard bid contractor procures their work. That's not, us doing that in a secret lab. That's how all hard bid is bought. We choose to buy our CM work that way. On a project this size, between drywall, site work, all those packages that normally you see lumped up, we'll buy them all direct. It will make hundreds of thousands of savings. It will also have direct control, which we like, with the subcontractors and cut out markups on change orders. You can see these are some of our recently completed MSBA projects that show our budgeted contingency in the second column there, the actual contingency that was expended throughout the project. And the negative numbers are where we actually added to contingency through buyout savings. And so the contingency returned in that column second from the right, are dollars that were given back to, those owners at the end of the project with their contingency. In Northbridge, we were able to turn back with Lee $6 million at the end of the project. That's great, but we're also proud, and we want to highlight that that was not because we value engineered things out of the job up front that were scope related. It was just good management of the money all the way through. So just wanted to, again, kind of highlight our background and our approach, a little bit of that GCCM mentality and the value. And I want to turn it over to Chelsea to get into pre-construction.
Save.
Chelsea Mutri, I'm the Vice President of Pre-Construction Services. I bring a unique perspective to your project as I've actually sat on all sides of the table. I've been on the design side, I've been on the owner side, and now working on the construction manager side. The thread that has connected all of those work experiences is solution seeking. And the team of directors that you see here all will be actively involved in your project. They are all also solution seekers and have a deep knowledge of school construction. Two folks that are not on the screen but are here with us today, Rob and Alex from the construction side will also be heavily involved in pre-con and will support our team through things like risk management, cost control, and quality control as well. So we know that funding this project is really a big ask for the people of Wilmington. So before we turn to the voters for support, we plan to spend the next 2 months really focused on delivering the most cost-effective project that we can get to. I actually just went through the same exact process 1 year ago with Agawam. The town of Agawam is building a 200,000 square foot high school. We had these exact same dates, deadlines. It is tight, but this isn't new to us. So we can definitely jump right in and provide the deliverables that you see on the screen related to cost estimates, constructability review, value engineering. I'm excited to jump back into this process again. I am a process person, so every time I get to repeat it, I get to make it better. You heard a lot from Dave earlier about cost control, and we understand that that's really a focal point for this project. So one of the things that we're excited to get into really is finding out what's important. And a couple of areas that we find value, especially in recent projects, are highlighted here. Site work, so it's early, right? We're just in schematic design. There's a lot to develop. But as an example, for Clinton Middle School with Dorn Whittier, we actually just saved that project about $1 million. So during DD, they were really looking at a lot of excavation of soil, and nobody wants to spend millions of dollars pushing soil around. So we worked with the design team to define their site management plan a little bit more and looked at ground improvements. So they're seeing savings of close to $1 million on that project. It's definitely something that we would be excited to talk to this team about more to see if there's any option to look at something like that on the site package as well. Again, it's early though, so. For envelope, so facades can be really complicated and expensive. It's going to be the first thing that your students, faculty, and visitors will see when they come to the building. So we would love to be able to dig in with the design team and come up with material selections that are both cost effective and will hit the desired aesthetics that you guys are looking for. And for mechanical systems, so we've historically seen these systems increase in pricing over the last few years. I don't think that trend is going to stop, but we have decades of historical school data to pull from, as well as many projects that are currently in construction. So we have a lot of insight into what that market looks like. Another example to take from Clinton Middle School, their original design called for a centralized water heater solution. And as we were going through design development estimates with them, our team flagged that it was not looking to be a very cost-effective solution, and it really had to do with the size of the heaters that they were installing. So the design team pivoted a little bit, looked more into that, and they actually adjusted the design to focus more on decentralized water heaters. So there's a couple of different wings of that building. So each wing got its own water heater setup, which really meant reduction in equipment size as well as reduction in piping runs. So more cost savings there. This type of stuff is really where the pre-construction team expertise truly shines through. I have a master's degree in architecture. I have a really deep passion for all things design and construction. And Shane Sampson, one of the team members on a previous slide, he's our lead estimator, and he spent a chunk of years of his career managing construction projects for contractors. So we bring an added level of experience to our pre-construction team, and we're really excited to get the opportunity to work with you guys to develop a successful and cost-effective project. I'm going to turn it over to Rob and Alex to speak a little bit about the building construction.
Okay, everybody, how you doing? Try to divvy this up because me and Alex are going to be trading off a little bit here. So to set the pace, I've been building Massachusetts public schools exclusively for the last 15 years. This would be my 4th elementary school project. And when it comes to schedule and approach, it's all about aligning the construction needs with the academic calendar and organizing that to make best use of your summer breaks. So we've taken a really deep look at this job, and we're very comfortable with your overall duration, roughly 2 years to get the new building built. But what struck us the most was the notion of the single owner occupancy and what it would take to get all the staff and the students into the building in the summer of 2028. So we've come up with a plan. We're excited to show you that approach tonight that would shave about the 6 months off the schedule, and as David talked about, roughly $1 million of cost. But we have to start at the beginning, not the end. Sorry, I'm blocking the view. Start at the beginning, not the end. That means talking about summer of 2026. And that's going to be a critical summer for us. It's going to be very busy. We'll hit the ground running. And I like to use first day ready. So that means to me, when the kids come back from summer break, the faculty, that our site is shared with the campus. It's a safe, clean, well-organized site. And I'd like for Alex to show you what first day ready means to Fontaine.
Everything. The key to this project is to be site management. We know from studying the area in your project that, some of the big issues are traffic congestion and, management of the abutters. And those are gonna be clear focuses for us along the way in this project. But I want to talk about four topics that are crucial for us, our success here. The first topic is communication. So from day one, we want to start communicating with the principal, stakeholders, making sure that you understand what our game plan is. Talk about things like mass hauling, big deliveries, noisy activities on site, making sure that you understand what we're doing on a daily basis, and making sure we have a plan to mitigate any issues. The second thing we want to do is set up our site entrance, very crucial on this job. So the product's design lends itself to a clear separation between the active site and school. By utilizing the bus entrance for the new school as our site entrance, we'll be able to allow for the current traffic plans for the buses and the parents to be maintained, and you lose no parking during the project. The third biggest thing we want to look at when setting up the job is actually the job setup. So setting your fencing, your scrim, your erosion control, those are our buffers between us and our neighbors. And it's going to take a lot of monitoring on a daily basis to make sure that we have no issues, and we want to make sure that the neighbors are happy. The next thing is we want to make sure we're setting strict guidelines for our tradespeople on a daily basis for the duration of the job. We want to make sure we have clear starting times. They know when the gates are opening. We know we can start equipment on site, and we know what our we want to hold them to a higher standard on the job. We want them to be able to understand that they're surrounded by people who are working in a fishbowl. You have to pick and you have to choose your language properly. Make sure if you're working near a sight line, if you're not, and students are on the other side of the fence, that you're not saying inappropriate things, and stuff like that. The next thing is we want to make sure that we're focused on a clean and organized job site. That's always one of my biggest focuses. It allows for a better progression of work on the job site, and it allows for a much safer project. And the last thing we like to look at to get us off the ground right on these products and crucial to our success is making sure we understand the utilities on the project, making sure we are understanding the underground as well as the overhead utilities, what we're doing with them, and engaging utility companies early on so we can get the work done in a timely manner.
Right. Thanks, Alex. He's talked a lot about what happens inside the construction fence. We want to make sure we talk about what's happening outside as well. So that's the relationships with the community, the abutters, the North Intermediate existing school, et cetera. So I want to touch on a couple of those highlights. When I think about this job, I do think a lot about the similarities it had with Lee and Dorn Whittier and Northbridge, and as well as Sims. And one of the things that we're going to be doing here is displacing a lot of the green space, the fields for the school, as well as the playground. So just like we did in Northbridge, I'll work with Principal Carrero and make sure that the kids have a safe place to be able to go outside and play during the construction process. On topic of the abutters in Northbridge, we had to clear 7 acres of what I would call wooded privacy and aligning about roughly a dozen abutters. And what that meant is really managing that relationship. So down in Northbridge, I'd walk in and I delivered letters to one of these. I just hand these out really quick to the abutters, letting them know who the main points of contact were, that they could reach out to us, and making sure that they understood that they were heard, and where to go if they had any questions or concerns. Also wanted to make sure that there was a clear and transparent path of communication between Fontaine, the building team, the OPM, the architect, and the building committee. So we'd come to you guys with any concerns or questions and find solutions collectively as to how to address any things that may have popped up. Ultimately, we're sensitive to the sensitivities involved with building in a residential area in a town like Wilmington. When it comes to the school, I'll touch on a couple of things, but we really need to make sure that we're understanding the daily activities and communicating daily. What special events may be going on? Are there testing days? Do we have to have quiet hours? Do we have to coordinate around those? Teacher development, early dismissal days. making sure that we're minimizing impact as best as we can throughout and maintaining safety. You know, we can't have kids walking in front of our gate on a half day and not know about it. So we have to really just make sure that there's that open dialogue. And we'll be inviting the principal, the superintendent, the facilities director, all those guys can come to our weekly meetings so they can see us real life, real time, and bring any concerns up to us. So we feel like that's a lot of the setup, the first day information, first day ready. Further through the rest of the construction process.
Yeah, so now I want to talk a little bit more about some job specifics. So we want to talk about managing access, and we want to talk about those critical items that we'll be dealing with on a daily basis, paint a larger picture of what you're gonna see every day. So we know that we're gonna have, we've got a project here with 165,000 square feet, 22-month schedule, very comfortable for us. We're used to doing it, it's our specialty. We're gonna have an upwards of 150 tradespeople on site coming and going daily. We're gonna have 1,200 tons of steel, probably 50 to 60 trailer deliveries. We're gonna have over 300 concrete trucks, over 3,000 cubic yards of concrete. And we could have up to 39,000 yards of import-export soils, averaging 2,000 trucks. Those numbers should really spark your interest. So how do we manage all that? So we want to set up our gate where we're setting the gate off the roadway 50 to 60 feet. We want to binder the entrance. We want to put a tracking pad behind the gate with a wheel wash. And we want to be able to sweep that every day. The binder is a really good surface to clean, so we're not tracking stuff into the main roadway. As far as traffic goes, we're 3/4 of a mile from 93, short, quick distance to the job site. We want to set up high-vis signs along the routes to make sure drivers know where they're going, as well as at the site entrance. We want to have an approved traffic plan with the town to make sure everyone knows what we're doing. All deliveries will be done outside of blackout hours. We feel that on this job, it's gonna be critical to have a monitor at the gate to make sure that we're in control of everything. And the last thing, which I think is really important on this job, is setting up a local queuing station for trucks. A lot of times when you have a steel delivery day or a concrete placement, you're gonna have 4 or 5 trailers coming to the site. You're gonna have 10, 15 concrete trucks heading to the site. You wanna have a location where the trucks can go. You take one trailer truck on site, you offload it, you bring in the next one. And that's gonna resolve a lot of chaos on this project.
Right, just a couple other unique things about the construction we have here. So having delivered over 1 million square feet of K through 12 construction in the state, I've been part of the jobs where you're taking multiple schools and putting them underneath one new roof. And so you're gonna have a pre-K through 5th grade population here, and that does definitely have some unique details to it, some unique feels. And just to touch on a couple of the things, like pre-K to K bathrooms. I think you know this, but like your toilets are at 12 inches for your little guys for pre-K and K, and then you're up to 15 inches when you're in your 1st through 5th grade toilet room. So it's making sure we're managing that with a plumber on site so he knows where he's setting his fixtures on his carriers, may be different from one side of the building to the other. Every pre-K and kindergarten room tend to have their own dedicated bathroom with baby changing stations, coordinating and blocking. But that also means that you have these young learners that make innocent mistakes. So sometimes we've seen in these younger classrooms that things get flushed down the toilet. And then you have these low flow fixtures that could lend to clogs. So we'd like to talk to Doran Whittier about, hey, can we increase underground sanitary pipe sizes? Should we add some additional clean out? So if those mistakes happen, the facility staff have an easier time clearing it out. But just some things that we've seen unique with this younger population in some of these schools that we're building. Elementary schools also all have playgrounds. We're very familiar with those. We only use the certified. We want to make sure that there's proper drainage under the playgrounds. We've got to make sure that we're coordinating any utilities that may be there with the playscape structure foundations. And also maybe cost savings for things as simple as just doing a different mix design for your board in place color. Ultimately, what we're trying to get at is we're familiar with this construction type, and we're going to work through pre-con to make sure that all these type of things are getting put into the design documents so that we can do the aggressive buy that Dave talked about. And then Alex makes sure he manages the quality in the field, ultimately so that we're mitigating the quality and the cost on the project. And that's how we were able to deliver that $6 million back to the town of Northbridge with Lee and SMA's team. So that takes us through like the construction piece that we want to talk about on the job. The new building. We get to the next major milestone, which is the summer of 2028. At that point, we'd be moving the students and the staff, or rather the staff, into the building and getting the owner furniture and equipment packages put together inside. Our focus is shifting to how do we make sure that all the students can come in as well. So we know that there's been that concern. We want to say that we do this every summer. We've studied this job thoroughly. There's always a building, an existing building on a school job that needs to come down and get out of the way in some shape or form for us to complete. And we're confident that we can deliver that here. That's done through two main ways. The first is early on working through the design and looking at things such as stormwater management, underground retention systems, utilities, site lighting, where we can put those type of items, and if we have to coordinate with the utility company to enable us to hit the ground running in the summer of 2028. But we take all of that thought that we put together early on, and we aggressively buy our site contractor, our abatement demolition contractor out with a very disciplined and accelerated schedule for the summertime work. And make sure that we hit that so that the opening day, all of your parking's done, all of your roadways are in, we're able to deliver the permanent traffic patterns for schools, the bus, the parents, the pre-K drop off. And we're then retreating into what we would say the last phase, which would be your tennis courts and your final fields. And we hope to turn those over to you guys by the end of Thanksgiving 2028. So again, shaving the time off the schedule and experiencing that cost savings. So.
So, let's get this funded. Arguably the biggest part of the project, right? This is obviously a huge ask for the people of Wilmington. And the town has an excellent, really, reputation for financial responsibility. Your residents have acknowledged and respected that stewardship of their tax dollars by funding the senior center, which I understand opens Friday, the new town hall, which is underway now. Historically, the CM has not been brought on board at this stage of the school project. We've been lucky enough with 5 different communities to be brought on board to sharpen the pencils at this stage of the process, help establish the budget before it's locked in, make some key financial decisions, and then bring that budget forward as a group that we can stand behind with some confidence. We've done it twice with Doran Whittier, and we've been successful both times. In every community, the primary concern is cost. Are the schools really in that bad of shape? Can we renovate? The high school wasn't that long ago. How is this possibly this expensive? Like, we've heard all of these things again and again and again. In communities where you're combining multiple buildings into one, there's like a second layer of those questions about like the location, why here? Concerns of like putting this many little kids in one building, okay? Exacerbating traffic in a neighborhood that's already got a lot of traffic. Displacing your athletic fields that are used by more than the kids on that site. Like, we can anticipate all of these questions. You've worked through all these questions. You've gotten yourself to a place where you know what the path forward is. Our job is to work with you to bring everybody else along, to let them see what you see, right? I'm a data person. I like research. So I've been working with your town clerk to do some research on the last 10 or 15 years of voter participation. What can you expect at the polls? So typically speaking, presidential elections get the highest level of voter participation. You're consistently around 70%, which is right around the state average, okay? You've got 16,800 registered voters right now in Wilmington. So 70% of those folks, roughly 13,000, I think we can expect to show up and cast a vote. So we need a simple majority, right? We need a little more than 6,500 votes to yes. You've got 2,756 kids in your schools. You've got parents, they've got grandparents, they got neighbors, they've got family and friends who care about them and who will invest in their future if we make the case for why they should, right? So where do we start? Your PR subcommittee under awesome leadership. Vivian is fantastic. She knows this world as well as anybody. She's got kids in the schools. She's gonna be passionate. You are months ahead of other communities in establishing a ballot committee. The fact that citizens have stepped up to do that puts you light years ahead of the other communities we've worked with. Together, there's stuff they can do that we as a group cannot do, but together we can get great information out into the community. We can listen to people's concerns, give them great information, and help them see what you all have seen after all this hard work. So I will personally lead that charge. Lee and I worked hand in hand in Northbridge to get it passed. I've known Vivian. Kind of excited to help. So, Brian, talk a little bit about once we get this sucker funded and how you're going to help make the building work properly.
Sure. Again, my name is Brian Davies. I'm Fontaine's Director of MEPs and Director of Construction and MEPs. And over the last 20 plus years, my career has led me through experience with controls, plumbing, HVAC, electrical systems, you name it. But probably the most shaping part of my career was at the very start And I was serving as an operator and mechanic aboard Navy nuclear fast attack submarines. So when there is a system failure or casualty on a submarine, we're not all looking around at each other trying to figure out whose problem it is or who's responsible for it. You dive right in, you solve the problem, you restore the integrity of the ship and the 120 lives on board. And that aligns with how we operate today as a company and one of our core values, blameless problem solving. So probably one of the most fulfilling parts of my job is working with facilities management teams. And, you know, after taking care of systems that are decades old, getting new systems, while exciting, can also be daunting for schools. And that's where we hope to add a level of comfort and understanding and training with your facilities teams to make sure everything's operating as it should and everybody understands. Beyond that, we have a full understanding of what a huge cost commitment this is to the town of Wilmington. And, you know, with our experience and controls, power systems, having an licensed electrician on board, there isn't a system in this building that isn't going to be touched by us in conjunction with the MSBA commissioning agent to make sure that your systems are running as efficiently as possible and as specified. The last thing anybody wants is unexpected cost overruns due to improperly operating equipment. So, and lastly, we'll integrate very tightly with the facilities team to ensure that training is complete. Understanding is there of maintenance periodicities, and then just plain, we want to be your go-to resource for any questions, whether it's, is this working right, or looking to learn something more, or additional training that may be needed. So that's it.
And so really quickly, we big picture, so understanding that this project is gonna bring together three different school communities. My role on the team is to make sure that we are connecting with, you know, principals, and other key staff and faculty members to really make sure that we are starting to build that shared sense of community from the beginning, right? We wanna get the students, the staff, and their families, really excited about what is coming, and to really start building that culture, right from the start. So I have details, happy to get into, you know, that conversation, as, you know, as we get into Q&A, but just wanted to.
It's the end of our kind of prepared presentation. I hope we get on a lot of points going to really, we thrive in Q&A, so looking forward to it.
Excellent, thank you. We're gonna start with Paul.
Thank you, that was an excellent presentation. Based on your initial review of PSR report, can you identify major challenges you see in this proposed project in your approach to helping us to successfully manage those challenges?
Sure. Yeah, so I think the whole schedule approach that we went through tonight with the single owner occupancy versus the phased occupancy was one of the challenges that we thought you guys had, and we would share that same challenge, and thought that we wanted to make sure we demonstrated to you our ability to be able to address all of that. The other thing is the neighborhood management. I think being in the residential neighborhood was something we wanted to make sure that we addressed, that we're sensitive to that. We've been there, we've done it, and we know how to try to communicate with the neighbors and make it a team effort so far as how to address that. And then cost control. Over the last several years, things have gotten much more expensive to build, and I think that there's a lot more sensitivity on that end of the construction arena as well. Can't get the same thing that you could get even just 5 years ago before the pandemic. So it's been even more a heightened awareness of how are we going to make sure we control costs and be good stewards of your guys' money. I think something Senior always says to the group is act like it's your own house, right? Like we don't want to treat this job like it's our own. We want to be acting as if it's our bank that's funding things and making sure that we're really just being fiscally responsible for you guys in the town you're spending. So those were the three kind of hit points that we thought were the challenges unique to the job.
Good, thank you.
Eric?
Can you talk to me a little more specifically about, how, your, plan will handle the neighborhood traffic concerns?
Sure. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing for us is to make sure that our subcontractors understand where they're going, get to the site, and not be, idling on the street or, getting lost in the neighborhood. We need to make sure we're giving them clear direction, and like I mentioned, the traffic plan, have that, so we distribute that to the subcontractors ahead of the job. We want to make sure that, obviously, we want to control that gate during blackout hours, so we're not impeding on, the parent drop off, pickup, the buses, all that stuff. We need to monitor that stuff, very closely. Mentioned having a monitor at the gate to do that. Obviously, we communicate with the monitor, we're also watching, the whole team is watching. And I think the queuing station, we have large deliveries and we have big, activities on site, is gonna be really important for this job. That way we're not, a lot of times what happens is trucks will come to the site and they'll get backed up. Or, the steel, fabricators are notorious for this. They will show up in the middle of the night. They don't care if they're idling in front of a business, a person's home. They don't care. They just want to get to the site and offload their steel. By having a queuing location, we can offset that. They can drive to the queuing location at night. They can park there. They come to the site in the morning when we open and we're ready for them. So I think those are the big items.
I would also just add that, like, the development of that, right, is as, if not more important than the execution of it, right? So as Rob said, like at Northbridge, and we will get to know personally, like the neighbors that are on the streets. We will, to the extent that the OPM and architect in the town, if they want to have a direct access line for us and stuff like that, we're perfectly okay with that. So there will be sessions like soon after we're involved in the team where we sit with your group, right? You've kind of done this obviously in a bubble planning. And we'll literally go through a checklist that we have with you folks about pickup and drop off hours. We'll come out to the site and we will sit there, for an entire day from before people get there until after people leave, and we'll observe it. So it's all that kind of reconnaissance once we're involved, right? To understand the ebb and flow of the traffic, the neighborhood concerns. And then, we'll do community forums and stuff like that as part of the project where we'll get to hear those concerns firsthand and work with everyone to craft a plan that's most, kind of customized for the neighborhood. And then, as Alex and Rob are saying, like, communicate that to the subcontractors so they contractually own it, right? So we legally contractually can enforce it, and that's our role. But then also, like, as Rob passed out during construction, we'll communicate with the neighbors what's gonna be happening, how long it's gonna last, what the impacts will be, because, if we think of us being around construction in the city or on a job site, or if it's been around your home, you say, I'm getting disturbed, what's going on? How long is this gonna last? Why is this happening? And providing those answers for people before they have to ask those questions is part of our method, so that, they understand that there's gonna be things that have to happen for the project. They know how long they'll happen and what they're for, and they know they can always reach out if there's concern.
You've got one great benefit here, which is 70 to 93 is great. Like the notion of building this kind of building in this kind of neighborhood happens quite a bit for us. But oftentimes, Route 3 and the Tingsboro Middle School are nowhere near each other. Right? That trucking is going quite a ways to get to the site. It's actually a really, I didn't mean to scare you, but like, it's actually a really great benefit of proximity to 93, which is gonna be a huge asset to manage a lot of this.
So it sounds like you're talking about the queuing station being outside of the neighborhood.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Finding a parking lot, maybe it's an exit down 93 or a local industrial park, where we could find some spots, something like that.
Okay. That makes sense. Oh, there's some other questions for me.
So, project manager and project superintendent. Tell us about a specific problem that arose in the project and how you resolved.
It's so vague that everyone goes,
Okay.
Focus on the most challenging part of the project. We didn't role play this one.
I think, I'm gonna continue with the Northbridge example, and there's gonna be a letter that you guys will receive from one of the building committee members there, who's also the vice chair of the FinCom in Northbridge. So when we were down there, one of the things that particular committee wanted to have was irrigation in their fields. It would come at a cost, and so we wanted to make sure we did our due diligence to investigate it. What we found out was the water company in town told us, hey, when you're gonna wanna use the irrigation the most, right, when your lawn's getting fried up, we're gonna be in a drought, we're not gonna let you use your irrigation. So we made sure we had that conversation, and what we ended up doing was doing a lot of well testing to see if we could drill wells and have a well that would be able to yield the proper flow result to provide irrigation to the field, so you weren't relying on the town water supply to get that done. And unfortunately, that didn't yield the right result. We couldn't produce enough water to irrigate the fields. But at least we didn't spend $500,000 putting the irrigation system in, that when you wanted to use it most, you'd be told, hey, you can't use the irrigation. And we also tried to work through a solution of finding an alternate way of providing that water to the fields that wouldn't be relying on the town local supply. So it was a cost savings opportunity, checking to make sure that it was gonna make sense, and no one to pull the plug if it wasn't gonna work for the committee and not be a good way to spend some money. That's just I guess an idea that maybe is relative and touches on a couple of different things, not just.
I think that
Yeah.
that speaks to like the relationship that we try and build and have been able to build with the consultants, the architects, the OPMs, where we're not afraid in our role to say, you know, hey, hold on a sec, let's be a little careful on this cost, and, you know, let's do a test well instead of just saying, let's go drill these wells and find out there's not water there. And, you know, with Lee and his team, we have a good rapport, but we play, you know, our role in that CM world is also on the owner's behalf to make sure that we're vetting out, you know, impacts of design alternatives, making sure value engineering is incorporated, and we do that in a way where we work well together. But I think you can count on Fontaine to be cost conscious, you know, for the whole team's sake. And I think to Rob's point, that was push it out, hey, before we go down this road, let's drill a test well, let's do this, you know, 10% of the way and make sure it's gonna work. And at the end of the day, it saved a significant, you know, investment. But it speaks to that, how we see our role too, is collaborative, but also, you know, making sure that we're turning over stones for you.
What is the main difference between your firm and others?
I think the main difference for us, is that this is the focus of what we do as a company. As you know, our executive involvement will remain throughout the project. This isn't, you know, come to these meetings, go through pre-con and get it into construction. You'll see Dave Senior on this job site at least once a week, basically pushing the subs. And I think that, you know, it's kind of our closing too, but it's really like for us, we take a lot of pride in focusing on this market, focusing on our clients, focusing in Massachusetts, because we simply can't have that project. We can't go to another region. We can't retreat to a different vertical. This is what we do. Our relationships within the MSBA community, the town manager community, the superintendent, finance, like this is our entire, you know, company. So each project we believe is truly, you know, as important to each member of our team as it is to your team and to the people.
I just add one thing to that, because I've heard this actually getting live from people I've worked with, clients I've worked with. We're extremely easy to work with. Like that, I know that sounds simple and statement, but it's a true statement. I think a lot of it is because what Dave just mentioned. There's not 15 layers to get through for a decision. You have this team, and then it goes right to Dave or Dave Senior, and you get that immediate decision making, and you get that involvement from them. Where if you need to pick up the phone and call them, they're right there. You're not having to get through 4 or 5 different layers of the people where you can get to the decision makers of the company. And because of who the Fontaines are, they tend to want to serve the client. And so it just is an easier way of working. I think with Fontaine, when I hear that from our clients, they just really like working with us. We spend more time with you guys than we do with our families over the next 2 years, right? So you want to be easy to work with and you want to have good relationships. I don't want to get up and be stressed out what I'm walking into. I don't want you guys to either. So we really just want to make sure that at the end of the day, again, not to keep hitting it, but easy to work with, easy to get along with. And
that I think you make, it goes back to that, what you said, blameless problem solving. It's like the reason you're hiring us or any other CM is because this is going to be an extreme challenge over the next, you know, several years to deliver this on time, on budget, fulfill all the promises that we have to, you know, make to the voters, right? And I think that if there weren't problems, you wouldn't need a capable team. There's going to be challenges, and each one of those we come at with that approach of, it's not about how we got there, whose fault this, it's about like, what's the solution and how do we come out of that problem with the type of relationship that we want to maintain, right? So when you know what the end is, it's a little bit easier to get there because we're not gonna escalate things to this and that. I always say the only resource, we've built all these resources over the last 10 years, right? We've got, in-house MEPs, in-house safety, an in-house electrician. The only person we haven't hired is an attorney. And there's a reason for that, because if we simply look at our work as, if a contract ever comes out of a drawer, right? Like, that's gone too far for us. We're, people to people, when we approach it with that blameless problem solving attitude, focused on the relationship. And it's done us well, through COVID, through all those things that were so difficult to work for the last 5 years. No lawsuits with owners, none of that. It's just been, how do we get this accomplished?
Thank you.
So I've got a couple questions, great presentation, answered most of it, and the first one is just a shout out, because I think you brought up a detail that I think is really important, that you specifically do very well, which is kind of that micromanagement of procurement and the bid process of about the 50% that's not the final sub bids. I've lived it, it's real. You guys do a really good job with that kind of mentality of breaking the packages down correctly. And given that, right, and the importance that and they've all heard from me for the last 2 years about this is like the critical milestone for the project, setting the right budget. I think we have 70 days between like now and April 25th, to get that right. And all the stuff that you guys just talked about and pre-con, right, to get the benefit of that, we have to shove it into that 70 days. How do you see that kind of working? And how do you see kind of benefits of, trying to integrate your team into that process to get us to that finish line?
It's a good question. I'll let Chelsea kind of go through the process. I think something just to set the stage is the good news is that this team, right, is the team who do the project. This is the team who put together the RFP. This is the team who line by line has put together this schedule. So the learning curve for the normal, hey, ops team, the BD guys won the plan. You have 70 days to get it through pre-con. Like, this is the group. So if you don't like us, like, don't pick us. This is it. But that's gotten us into a position where we're very familiar with the project, right? We've already gotten subs know that we're pursuing it. So that kind of the warm-up period is next to nothing, also with familiarity with the group. But I'll let you speak to kind of, nuts and bolts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to do with what I presented earlier around jumping in as soon as we have those documents, right? So he's not joking. Everybody that's here is going to do just that. Like, as soon as those drawings are in our hands, Rob's gonna have them. He's gonna have 50 things he wants to talk about. And we're really proactive with value engineering, right? No one likes that term because it means that we're cutting costs somewhere, but we also have a number of projects currently and things that we can pull from with other project managers that will say, hey, you know what? We reduced granite curbing by a couple of inches in, what's essentially sticking out of the ground, and it saved us $50,000, $100,000. It depends on obviously how much you have, but those are things that we pull from other team members that are all realistic options that we pull into this process as well. So as soon as we have those documents, we're digging into those details. We'll have comments about constructability because these guys live this all day long, and really value engineering. And we start that process as soon as those documents are issued. So we're not getting to estimating, reconciliation with you guys and then saying, oh, we don't know, like, where are we going to save money? That's all ready to go. We have values associated with it as part of our estimating process. We don't want to come to the table with half-ass information. Like, we want to have as many options out there for you guys as we can.
I think also we tend to get, and I know, I've been working with different folks across the board. Like, when we solicit subcontractor pricing, which is really important to get at that stage, right? Like, we tend to get, I would anticipate for this, if we were to put it out in a couple weeks for that, we would anticipate we would get 3 to 5 subcontractor prices for each major trade. And I've just heard kind of historically that that's not always the case at this level of documents with subs. We also take everything off internally. We have our unit prices, so we don't rely purely on that, but getting that because we actively bid so many projects, these subs are bidding to us all the time. We've, recently been awarded a couple projects that they're actively pursuing with us, right? So those relationships with the subs are live. And that level of subcontractor feedback is gonna allow us to have more certainty in the cost, which is gonna allow us to not be carrying, kind of contingencies within the number. So those sub relationships, including those, out in this area where Rob and Alex are working with currently, hey guys, we're going to this project, are you interested in it? Like our kind of foothold in this MSBA market is gonna get you good subcontractor pricing, which will help drive down costs. But we do believe, based on our histories with schools, based on similar projects that we have and that we're pricing, that, your budget in that kind of 835 a foot range is well funded. We think it's conservative. We believe that there, are opportunities probably for, savings or just the budget coming down a little bit with contingencies and market pricing. And, we would have those conversations live with you and, we know that setting the right budget, there's no reason to set a budget that's too conservative, right? That's gonna put the project in peril of passing. So it would be myself and Senior and Rob that are making those decisions. We don't have some corporate structure if we can't be a little more, risk tolerant, and that I think will result in a better budget up front as well.
It seems like a lot of the big ticket items you guys are already working on, that we've watched from the committee meetings, we've decided on displacement air. We've decided against your geothermal wells, like you're shaping up what's gonna be more of the final scope. As you're getting right now, so some of those questions that maybe had you not gotten to that point yet, we'd be bringing to the table, so needing to wait for those answers of decisions to be made. Which just means when we do get released to go, there's less guesswork or less options to have the price, which also means that you get a more accurate price and idea of where you're at so far as construction costs against the budget that we have. So.
Super. Thinking of guesswork and crystal balling, right? One of the other challenges we have, right, is again, setting this budget early and waiting for a vote and then waiting for design to finish and then it shovels in the ground, right? And that kind of staleness piece out there, given what's out going on in the world right now and uncertainty, tariffs, this and that, kind of what is your kind of strategy just to kind of think about that? What are your thoughts on just how do we best position ourselves to plan for that?
So I think in general, right, we want to know, in my world with subcontractors, and this comes from the hardware world, I want to know what the work costs today, right? I don't want to ask 15, 20, 30 different subcontractors and estimators to guess about what they think about tariffs, what they think about escalation, I want them to price the work, plans, and specifications as shown, help us fill in gaps of scope, help us get to an accurate cost for the project. Then from there, right, we want this group to control that global conversation of how are we going to approach this risk. And I think that's very important because sometimes when you're not clear with subs and they know this project might start in a year and a half to, they're kind of in their own world saying, well, this might happen, or I just saw in the news that there might be this or there might be that. So we're clear with them from the start that we don't want to double burden that, right? And then we also, we try and buy the work in that same way that we want to control the risk between your group and our group, right? So again, buying the subs with, we would kind of in the estimating process of setting the right budget, we want the cost today. We're gonna take a global look and use all of our resources and agency and national connections and all the stuff leading industry on, what is a realistic approach with those things, right? And there's certainly more uncertainty now than, there's been in some time, but we went through all this in 2016 to 2020 with a lot of the tariffs and the government driven stuff. And we went through craziness in COVID. It's kind of par for the course with us. But you're gonna have myself, you're gonna have Dave, you're gonna have those people who are seeing this across all of our projects, taking risks with our own money, advising you on our thoughts on that. And then I think that, when we get to the procurement world, like we will again buy the subs and it's, CM at risk. You could have allowances, you could have holes, you could have, DOT indexes for paving. Like we would advocate that you would smart risk on the owner side rather than just paying the subcontractors to kind of guess how much they should include in it. Because generally, if you do that, if they guess right, you never hear from them again. And if they guess wrong, they're coming back anyways. Right. So, we manage it, closely like we would with our money. And that's how we buy our hardware work. It's how we buy it here.
Super, appreciate the answer. That's all I had. You guys answered everything else kind of in the presentation. So, thanks for
I just have a few questions, but my first question is for Liz. I think Liz has been sitting there patiently waiting to talk about what the plan would be for, getting the yes vote and some of the ideas that she had. So I just kind of wanted to throw it back to you, so you could kind of give us some of that information.
Yeah, I mean, so, first of all, the first thing we want to do is, right, sit down with the key players, right, to understand the best ways for us to approach, students, other faculty members, and then, family members, right? So we can do that in, many different ways. We, obviously always do regular job site tours, presentations, both for students and also for the community. Another cool thing that, we've been doing is all of this technology that is now in use, across the industry, right? Like, how cool would it be to bring students, onto the job site and demonstrate a few things to kind of get them, excited, about the project. We, can also have the students tell the story of the project, right? Have them come document what's happening and then share that out with to their peers. And another cool thing that we have done, I don't know if you can go back to that slide. So we've actually done this a couple of times where we map out construction activities and actually share this with teachers, right? And so they can sort of think about what they're teaching, what units, and we can, bring them and students on site and, have, the construction activities actually support what they're teaching in a classroom. And one really cool thing that we've been doing the last couple of years is with an elementary school in Springfield, a tiny house project. So, and that's really, I mean, it's really, really cool. The students, their teachers are usually their client. So they interview the clients about what, they want to see in their training home. And then they get to design it and we kind of come in and, counsel them, talk to them about the whole building process. So it is, we have options. We have options and we like to be, yeah. And then, the other piece of this too, we always want to make sure that we're providing local folks the opportunity to, to work on the project, right? So we are, very active in, seeking local folks who might be in the trades and then, connecting them with our subcontractors to give them an opportunity to participate in the project, right? Part and parcel with that, thinking about folks who've been historically left out of the industry, right? Providing opportunities for women, for example, folks of color to be able to participate in the project as well. So, this, I feel like a lot of times people don't think about schools as like, big impactful economic projects in that way, but they really, really are. And we've had great success in the community. So ready to go.
Excellent, thank you. My last question is, when encountering a potential challenge on site, what is the process for notifying the owner? I know it's a complete switch from what we just talked about, but.
Yeah, so I'll take that. I think I use the word transparency. Like, we don't gain trust if we're not clear and when things happen. So my motto is, as soon as something happens, the entire team knows about it. We're open about it. We sometimes want to make sure we're finding the information so that when we come to you guys, it's an educated conversation. There's maybe some solutions. It's not always just as simple as here's a problem and you want to present it, but don't maybe have the solution or the backstory or whatever. So when a problem happens, the best thing to do is to address it head on, gather all the information they need to gather, and then come to everybody that's on the team and say, hey, here's what we have going on. Here's what we've done to research it. Here are some solutions that we think that we have to address it. And just make sure that it's just always clear and out there. We don't want to ever make you guys feel as though anything's getting tucked under the rug. We want to make sure you trust us. And the first time that happens, that you feel like something's not being transparent, I feel like you lose that. So we want to make sure we're always, that you guys have our confidence and that we're very transparent and open with you guys to any problems that come up.
Thank you.